I woke up to the sound of my mom singing happily. She was in the bathroom, but the door was open so I could hear her. I covered my eyes as the memory of what day it was washed over me. Normally, I would be dreading the crowded and awkward event, but Jude would be there. I took a slow breath and tried to fight off the new anxiety that was building. Zora, are you awake? Maybe. Well, get ready. I'm so excited for the festival, aren't you? We never had anything like this back at Ofsted. Are you planning to spend it with the mayor? Of course, why wouldn't I? We've gotten really close since I became his assistant. You really like him, don't you? Mom shrugged, but I saw that smile I had seen so many times before. Oh, Mom. She sighed and approached me. I sat up and she sat beside me. Darling, why does it make you so uneasy? Rick is a great guy and he has always been kind to us. I don't know. I'm happy if you're happy. I just gotta get used to it. Mom gave me a quick hug and then went back to getting ready. I know I'm not the only one looking forward to spending the day with someone. What? Jude, you're meeting him there, right? Yeah, so I stood up and cleared my throat. Anyway, we should get going. Mom laughed and nodded. When we were both ready, we left and headed to the community center. Chairs had been pushed aside and the room was decorated with paper and lights. Everything was white with touches of blue. Music played softly and the tables were lined with refreshments. The room was crowded and the lights were dimmed. Everything had a glow to it from the neons, and for a moment I was taken aback. It was all quite pretty and so bizarre. Mom gave my hand a squeeze before moving away, and I was left to my own devices. I looked around and tried to see if I could find Jude. Caught the sight of Jude walking along the refreshment table. He seemed to be considering everything that had been set up very carefully. As I walked towards him, he must have sensed me, because he turned. Zora, look at this. What? We overplanted strawberries, and I'm just amazed at all the strawberry things that the cooks were able to make. That's not very wintry. Strawberry cake, pie, cookies, tarts, pastries, whipped strawberry cream. They even put some in a fucking salad. It's fascinating, Jude. He pointed at the large bowl that held several leafy vegetables, as well as little red slices of strawberries. Strawberry juice! I laughed. I couldn't help it. He sounded so offended. You think this is funny, huh? He smiled at me. I guess you don't care for strawberries? No. What would make you think that? I like them, actually. I'm just sick of them now. He laughed and stepped away from the table to stand closer to me. Want some? Oh my god, he's so cute. Sorry. He's very pretty. Look at him. He pulled out a flask and held it out to me. Sure. I started to take a drink while Jude attempted to warn me. It was too late, and my large swallow of the burning liquid made me cough and stutter. You were really only supposed to take a sip. I handed the flask to him and wiped my mouth. I tried to stop coughing. What is that? A really good bourbon. It's not the best, but Sam insisted I try it. He laughed and patted me on the back, took a sip of the flask, then put it back in his pocket. You alright? Yeah, I think. He reached out and wiped my cheek. He was so close. You want to dance or something? I nodded and he led me over to the dance floor. The music was fast and he danced horribly, but I'm sure I did as well. We laughed about it. Things began to wind down, so I said my goodbyes and looked for Mom before heading home. Found her slow dancing with the mayor. I could only sigh. There was really nothing I could do at this point but wish her well. I left. I was sure I would see her later. It was getting late and I was tired. Time for bed. Aw, no heart with Jude? Come on, we danced together. Okay. It wasn't quite as much of a spectacle as I expected it to be, but we hung out with Jude. I don't remember what I did last. Library, I guess? Micah! Hi! When I walked in the library, I saw Micah pondering a display at the table. Hey, Micah. Zora, how wonderful to run into you here. Perhaps you could help me make a decision. Oh yeah? Do you have any recommendations? I wanted to read something a bit moody, maybe even dark. I glanced over the shelves. Moody. He said moody, maybe dark, so drama would probably be the best. I recommend No Alternative Remedy. Thanks for the assistance. If you ever need a reading suggestion from me, I would be happy to reciprocate. Sure. So, what are you in the mood to read? Fantasy as usual. That's my usual go-to. Then I suggest Carbons. Do you come here often? I really wish they were able to expand the selection. Sometimes, though, I know what you mean. Excuse me, I should get going. It was nice seeing you. Backed up and almost ran into a shelf. He reached out to study it, gave me another smile, and walked over to Trevor to borrow the book I had suggested. Once I had made my own selection, I headed home. As soon as I stepped into the security center, I saw something that was different. The mayor was there, of all things. He was speaking with Vince and a man who was shackled and sitting at Vince's desk. The other officers were pretending to work, but I could tell they were eavesdropping by how quiet things were. I figured I'd do the same, so I took my time checking the board and sitting at my desk. These aren't serious crimes, but he doesn't stop. Don't act like I'm not here. He's in here all the same, at least a few times a month. It's getting ridiculous. Exile is a serious matter. And he's got a kid. Look, I get it. It scared me real good. Since when do I get kicked out for nicking a few groceries? Liquors are a luxury item, not something you are entitled to here. Message received. Let me go and I won't take anything that isn't mine again. The theft isn't the biggest problem. I can't help it if people start fights with me. Where are they? Why am I the only one chained up? I'm aware of his various crimes. I'll have to think about what to do with him. We can't keep him locked up in here forever. I know he isn't contributing if he's here. But the kid... The mayor fell silent. The prisoner looked between them and licked his lips. He looked like he was trying to think of something to say. Put him back in his cell for now. I need to think it over. Vince nodded. The prisoner tried to beg for mercy, but was dragged back into the holding cells. His shouts were silenced when the door shut. I started to flip through my reports in earnest when a hand touched my shoulder. Zora, it's good to see you. I felt my heart drop. I could feel the eyes of everyone here on me now. Mr. Mayor, I have to tell you, working with your mother has been a real pleasure. You don't have to tell me that, actually. I don't need to know that information. I nodded. What was I supposed to say? So, he grabbed an empty chair and sat beside me. Oh no, go away. I know you probably overheard all that. He spoke quietly. This time, no one could hear unless they got closer. Yeah. So, what do you think? I always trust your mother's opinion, but she's busy back at my office. I wonder if you both will think similarly. Should he be given yet another chance? Or should we exile him? His son is too young to keep her alone. Well then, obviously you forgive him. Maybe with some mercy we can change this guy. Get to know him and get to the root of everything. He steals alcohol. Maybe he has an addiction problem. We can't just give up on each other. That's kind of you. That was an interesting perspective, Zora. Thank you. He gave me a hearty pat on the shoulder and then left. I stared at the paperwork in front of me, desperate to ignore everyone's stares. Eventually things settled down and I was able to properly focus on work. At the end of the day, I learned that the guy was released with yet another warning. I wasn't sure how many more warnings the man would get, though. I walked in and the whole room was alive. People were running around and Vince was shouting orders over the noise. If I haven't called for you, then go about your usual duties. Ava stood beside him looking worried. I went up to ask about it, but Vince interrupted me. Zora, your assignment is on the board. I could only nod as he walked away. The water was shut off. What? Why? Mechanical error? I gotta help Vince with keeping some people calm. People are pretty upset about the water. That's strange. Ava left to join Vince as they headed out. I tried to focus on my duties, but I couldn't help but worry about the water. After a few hours, though, it was turned back on and all was well. Tabby was sitting in the corner with her face buried in her arms. She hadn't brought any of her books or toys. Hey. Everything alright? I wondered if she was feeling upset about that protest. I should try and cheer her up. So, wanna sneak into the greenhouse? Really? Her voice is a little shaky, but she probably didn't want me to interrogate her about it. I was gonna sneak in. Wanna come? Tabby looked up at me. Her eyes were puffy and red. She nodded and stood up. When she thought I wasn't looking, she rubbed her eyes. I led her towards the side entrance. Surely there's another way that you could help cheer this little girl up without committing a crime? I don't know. And I noticed Brian enter and leave. He never seemed to remember to lock it. We crept through the hallways like thieves, despite having done nothing illegal yet. When we got to unlock the door, I glanced around until I knew we were alone. What do we do if we get caught? We run or pretend to be very lost? I think we'll be fine as long as our pockets aren't full of stolen produce. She smirked and nodded, so I opened the door and peeked inside. I led Tabby inside the greenhouse and we managed to avoid being seen by anyone. We walked around aimlessly, but somehow managed not to get lost. Then we made a quick exit before we were caught and headed back to the gym. That was awesome, right? Thanks, Zora. I'm gonna go head home before Dad starts to worry about me. Want me to walk you there? No, I'm not a baby. Alright, just be safe. Is it really dangerous on the surface? Her face looked sad, and she was searching my face for answers. Her whole tone had changed. It's dangerous, but you don't have to worry about that. You live in Camden. I guess. Alright, see you later. Okay. She's so cute. I grabbed the stuff I had left behind and went home as well. Oh, Ava! Hi! How fancy seeing you here. Hi! I walked into the library and I saw Ava going over her staff favorites shelf. Zora! Hi, Ava. I don't think I've ever bumped into you here. Ava shrugged. I'm not a huge reader. So, what are you here to get? Just something to read. Whatever catches my eye. It's not like there are a ton of things to do down here when you're not working. That is true, but Icarus is pretty fun, you know? I suppose. It's a little crazy there sometimes. I prefer the quiet library. Right. Well, I should get going. See you. Ava left and I glanced over to see Trevor. He was resting his chin in his hand and seemed to be staring off into space. It almost seemed like he got sad whenever Brian wasn't around, bugging him. I marked down my book without making eye contact, so I left. Just as I finished getting dressed, there was a buzz letting me know that someone was at the door. I opened it and saw Jude. Oh no, I clicked out. I clicked out in my flustered excitement. Hey! I stepped aside to let him in, slightly relieved that he didn't have any contraband on him. At least I didn't see any. I was just, I cleared my throat, suddenly embarrassed to admit that I had been planning to seek him out when he beat me to it. Tried to cover my drop in conversation, but Jude didn't seem to notice. They're showing a movie today. You haven't seen one, have you? Movie? I knew what they were, I just hadn't realized Camden had access to such luxuries. Yeah, they've got 3 films intact enough to show. Wanna go? Wow, 3 of them? What are they like? An old romance with a big ship, a space battle with aliens, and some scary nonsense with clowns. Any of those sound particularly interesting to you? I thought about it, but Jude's description didn't give me a whole lot to go on. Jude poked around at the stuff on my kitchen counter and said nothing. Maybe he was still a bit sleepy. Which movie sounded the most interesting? The old romance, for sure. The one with romance in a sinking boat sounds interesting. Getting to see the ocean, that by itself might be worth it. We don't know what they're showing until we go, so wanna? Yeah, of course. Jade tucked his hands in his pockets and grinned at me. He turned as if to leave, so I followed him. A lot of people were heading toward the community center, and when we got there, I saw that the lights had been dimmed and a large white sheet had hung up from a, what did it say? Sorry. I clicked it too fast. A white sheet had been hung up as a screen. Okay, gotcha. Jude placed a hand on my lower back and led me towards the furthest corner of the place. It wasn't as easy to see the screen, but there were less people. I know you get anxious when there are a lot of people close by. Oh my god. You noticed. During the town hall meetings, you always sit at the very back. He shrugged and sat down, so I sat down beside him. He had noticed. It wasn't a big fear or anything. I was just more comfortable with a bit more space. I still wasn't used to so many people being so close to me all the time. I glanced around, and then an announcement was made that the lights would soon be put out for the movie. Jude nudged me and placed something small and round into my hand. Strawberries. Shh. I bit my lip and tried not to chuckle too loudly. Of course he had snuck produce into the community center for this. I shook my head but nibbled on a tart red fruit. What was that about contraband then? The lights grew darker and the screen lit up. A scratchy noise exploded out of the speakers and some warped text displayed on the sheet. The movie was loud and confusing, but fun to watch. I was glad I had sat in the back with Jude. He had brought pockets full of fruit for us to snack on. Things started to quiet down. Two of the aliens were talking about something seriously. The audio and visual had been compromised somewhat, but it could still be made out if I focused. I tried to focus, but a hand touched my chin. I turned to see Jude. His hand moved from my chin to my lower lip. He brushed against my skin and then showed me the small strawberry leaf that had been on my face. For a moment I forgot the movie, despite looking back towards it as Jude did. Jude always seemed so relaxed, yet he had marks on his wrist from the rubber bands, and I knew he was prone to drinking when he was upset. Hopefully I could learn more about him. The movie was strange, and I found it hard to pay attention to once I got distracted from the story. Jude seemed to be enjoying it though, and there were parts that made me laugh. When it was over, the lights returned, and Jude nudged me. So? What? Your thoughts? Come on. Oh, he wanted to know what I thought of the movie. It was great. It was okay. It wasn't bad or anything, but I think I prefer books. He smirked at me. At least you're honest. Maybe you'll like one of the other movies better? The company was nice. He got up and entered the river of people who were exiting the community center. It was late, so I headed home while giving Jude a friendly wave. He watched me for a moment, making me a little nervous. When he finally seemed to be done studying me, he turned and we went our separate ways. Well? Oh, no new heart. Did he not like that I wasn't honest? Movies, alien movies in general. I'm not really a movie person, but alien movies especially, I'm good. Mom woke me up for yet another important community meeting thing. Before I could protest, she handed me a cup of coffee and moved so that I could attempt to wake up. Last week was the winter festival, and I had spent it with Jude. I smiled into the coffee, but tried to focus on waking up and getting ready. Glanced at Mom, who was happily humming. I now knew without a doubt that there was no stopping whatever was going on between my mom and the mayor, so I just mentally wished her luck. Ever since coming here, we had only seemed to grow further and further apart, but that might be a good thing. I didn't need to fret over here as I used to. We arrived at the community center, and I couldn't help but overhear a lot of talk about the recent water issues. It only occurred once and hadn't lasted long, but it was enough to put people into a panic. Mom left to assist the mayor, so I started to look around the room and saw familiar faces. Let's see, Sam, Trevor, and Iris. Oh, the fucking no, we're not talking to her. Let's go. Let's do Vince and Tabby. Vince and Tabby were together. The poor girl looked miserably bored. Why do we have to do these things every week? They're so dumb. It's an important part of being a community. It won't last long. Whatever. Vince sighed and shook his head at her, but didn't say anything more. She looked content to pout. Hey guys. Phillips. Hi Zora. Still not used to these weekly meetings. They're stupid. Tabby. Tabby sighed loudly. Okay, I guess they're not always the worst. Vince chuckled, but continued to shake his head. It'll be over soon. Look, Frick's about to speak. Pointed up to the stage and Tabby sighed again. I bit back a chuckle and settled in to hear the mayor speak. The mayor tapped on the mic gently and then cleared his throat to speak. It was a lot of the same. First, he spoke about the Winter Festival. He'd gotten a lot of good feedback on it and was looking forward to more events like it in the future. He was excited to go over upcoming news, schedule changes, and mentioned the various lots that could use donations, cloth specifically. Not once did he speak of the disaster on the surface. It had been weeks. Did we still have no news? He didn't mention the water issues either. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal after all? Once it was over, he left the stage and joined my mother. As I left, I heard people muttering about the water and the surface, but mostly, people seemed to be talking about the Winter Festival. Yeah, he gives me, like, cult leader vibes. Maybe that's why I don't trust him, because he's so sus, and he has, like, this, like, weird cult leader vibe somehow. I don't know why. Everyone was, like, obsessed with him, and, like, I mean, not anymore, I guess, but they were. And, like, now he's just, like, trying to brush off the side. Everything's fine. You know, trying to pretend like everything's fine. Nothing bad is happening. No water issues. No surface issues. Everything's fine and great and beautiful here in Camden. Just, you know, believe him. Everything's fine and great and beautiful. It's weird. I don't like him. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. As soon as I walked in, I was hit with the shouting of two people arguing in the corner. Sam glanced up at me and shrugged. Two men I didn't recognize were yelling and shoving at each other. They didn't seem drunk, so I wasn't sure what to do. Shouldn't you call someone? You're the someone. You're the someone who should be called. You're on the security force. I will if I need to. I watched the men for a moment, but I wasn't sure if I could relax with them fighting like that. Yeah, again, literally your job. I rolled my shoulders and tried to mimic the authoritative tone that I had heard from many of my coworkers. Alright, you two, that's enough. Don't make me take you down to holding. They must have either known that I was security or decided it wouldn't be wise to risk it. They went their separate ways. With that finally handled, I tried to relax at the bar with Sam until I was ready to call it a night. Did she like that? Oh. She might have, but whatever.